gourmet mushroom production, specialty mushrooms, and a little bit something different than you're learning here in horticulture. So my business is 10 Mile Mushrooms, and we grow specialty gourmet mushrooms. Now, these are like wood-loving species of mushrooms that grow on sawdust and soy hulls. So this bag right here, you can actually see a little bit. This is the mycelium growing onto the sawdust and soy hulls here. So I'll explain a little bit further about some of the steps. But I just wanted to give you a little rundown about mushrooms, the history of mushrooms in general, not just in cultivation, but also, you know, kind of what they do for our ecosystem. So like mushroom past, it's actually really cool because mushrooms are the reason we have soil. One time here on planet Earth, there were actually mushrooms that were 3-4 feet tall. And at this point, the Earth was just covered in rocks. So mushrooms are what kind of broke down those rocks and gave way to actual soil, which is really crazy when you think about it. Having mushrooms that are as tall as us, it's pretty awesome. And this was even before plants, before anything. So they gave way to plants. So mushrooms essentially are like the grandfather or the godfather of plants, if you would. So this is like probably 500 million years ago. And so the role mushrooms play in our ecosystem, they are decomposers. So that's why they were able to give way to other plants, because they're actually a organism that breaks stuff down. So that's why they're wood loving and what we call saprotrophic, meaning that they grow off of other living organisms per se. Like they'll colonize and grow on anything that's dead, that's living in the forest. There's species of mushrooms that will grow on little bugs, caterpillars, and it's really crazy because they actually take over the mind of these insects and end up using their host to proliferate, and then they end up like growing out of the head of this insect. It's really cool. They're called cordyceps, and they're really great for your mind and your brain. Most of the mushrooms that we grow are all some sort of something that are good for certain medicinal benefits. Lion's mane is really good for your brain. Cordyceps is really good for your brain. And just mushrooms in general, they're like a low-calorie option to get protein. So it's like if you're trying to eat lean, mushrooms are a great option for that. But going on from this into a little bit more about the cultivation of them. So mushrooms, there's more species than even plants. So we really only grow a certain few of those for commercial cultivation and as a farm. So within these species, there are different strains. So this gets into how we actually take a mushroom from the wild and make it something that we can grow and eat right off of these ready-to-fruit blocks. So what we do is, this is actually a petri dish. So this is what we grow, in science labs. They'll grow bacteria on these. They'll do all kinds of different crazy stuff with little microbes, yeast, stuff like that. So we pour these at our farm, and this is just an algae. It's an algae base with a little bit of sugar. It's like a gelatin. So it's really easily malleable, and the mycelium grows right over the top of it. So let's say we're in the wild and we want to take a mushroom and we want to grow it commercially. So what we would do is we would take that mushroom and cut a very small piece of mycelium out of the inside of it. So we tear it apart under sterile conditions. Like usually we work in front of what's called a HEPA flow hood, which is, it's like a clean air filter essentially that blows 100% clean air. So you're not working with any dirty air. like all around us. If we were to take a clean petri dish and just swipe it through the air like this, there would be dozens of different little things growing on this. That just like, it's amazing how many microbes and things are flying around, and different molds and fungi, or just their spores are flying all around us. So we take that little piece of mycelium and we put it on the plate. We let it grow to this phase. And once it's at this phase, we're able to expand it. So really what we do at 10 Mile Mushrooms is what we like to call mycelial expansion. So mycelial expansion is, first off, the mycelium is the roots of the mushroom. So to talk a little bit about how they actually grow, like 97% of the mushroom life cycle is found in this mycelium in the root phase. The actual mushroom that you see is just the reproductive part that drops spores and allows for them to like grow on other places. So the entire earth is covered in mycelium. It's really a fascinating fact, and mycelium is actually the largest organism on earth. There's a place in Washington where you can fly a plane above it and you can see the mycelial mat in the pine forest, and it's miles wide. It's really crazy. So yeah, the whole whale being the largest organism on earth is false. It's actually mushrooms. So yeah, this 3% of the life cycle is all we're working with here, really. Most of the time, it's just in this little different phase of growth. So once we have a petri dish that's fully colonized, we can take this and under sterile conditions, everything we do is under sterile conditions. Like, this is not just regular grain. This is grain that's been rehydrated, steamed, and then put in an autoclave, which is a big stainless steel pressure unit that you pump steam into. It gets really hot, it gets under pressure, and it's able to kill any of those millions of microbes that are living in the grain. So technically we could take this grain after that process and put it on the plate and nothing should grow. So that's how we know we've been doing our processes properly, is by testing always back to these plates, because it's going to show if there's any bad growth. So everything's done in like sterile environment. We have HEPA positive pressure labs, which means it's only blowing clean air into the room. So we'll take this little petri dish and we cut it and we put it into this bag. You can see here on the side, the bag is growing off of those little chunks of agar that we've put in there. So once this gets to a certain point where it's fully grown, it just continues to get expanded. And the whole purpose is we're trying to get enough mycelial mass that we can fruit, hundreds of pounds of mushrooms. So it goes from this stage to this stage, which is what we call grain spawn. So this is just that hydrated grain. It's been sterilized, and then we inoculate it. There's lots of terms for mushroom growing too. That's something that you'll find if you're looking on mushroom forum growing pages online. There's lots of little terms, like I'll write some out just because they become relevant. Substrate. That's what the mycelium actually grows on. So we can refer substrate as both the wood and soy, and also the grain would be considered a substrate. Inoculate. You may hear this term in horticulture too, but when it comes to mycelium and mushroom growing, inoculation is always the phase where you're expanding further. So, anytime we're taking a petri, putting it to what we call the first generation of grain, it's a inoculation. What else is there? So the two things that we use to actually kill the microbes that are battling our mycelium are sterilization, which is always under pressure, and you guys may have heard of the term when it comes to like dairy and milk, pasteurization, where they just heat it up to a certain temperature, and that kills a good portion of the microbes. So everything in our, I don't even know if I can spell this. Okay, so we're one and the same. Okay.
I always tell them I can get a 3.98 GPA in college, but I cannot spell. So.
It's tough. I mean, there's a lot of letters in that word. So pasteurization only happens at this step because we end up having so much mycelial mass. It would take a humongous autoclave, which costs, you know, tens of thousands of dollars in order to actually sterilize that. So we use what's called atmospheric pasteurization, and it's just a shipping container that we pump steam into. And we try to get these blocks up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and that seems to be enough to actually kill enough of the microbes that the mycelium shouldn't have to battle anything. So a couple of the things that we run into is obviously other molds and other like little bacterias that grow, and that could even be what's happening in this bag here, because it seems to not be wanting to fully grow in this spot. So there might be a little outbreak of bacteria or something in here. So a lot of times on these blocks, you'll see little patches of green. There's many different molds out there that can be a problem for a mushroom farm. The biggest one is trichoderma, which is a little green mold, and it's everywhere. It's prevalent on everything. It's on your skin. It's just everywhere. And another one is neurospora, which is an orange bread mold that you see on your bread in your kitchen if you just let it hang out for long enough. And when it comes to like sterilized substrate and the grain, it just grows over it so fast that you don't have any chance of ever actually growing mushrooms. So they call that like the farm killer. So if you guys have any questions, what else are you interested in as far as the process goes? Somebody has one question, I know it.
I'm just going to bring him in every day.
Okay, that's a great question. Yeah, and this all leads into kind of how I got started. So with mushrooms, it's something that you're growing entirely in a warehouse or a building. So like I said, everything is done in sterile conditions. So everything's done in like a barn. So I had an opportunity to use a barn to start a business. I didn't know what kind of business I wanted to start. And I cleaned out the space, and then I Googled things to do with small amounts of space, like businesses to start. And a mushroom growing page came up, and just had a lot of interest in biology. And I realized that nobody was doing it in our area. So, you know, there was a business opportunity there. So I just started learning through YouTube videos. You know, that's the great thing about today is you can just watch YouTube and learn anything. So I started following a couple of people online, and just through trial and error, started understanding the processes. And there's lots of other ways you can do it. So when we're talking about pasteurization, like you can also grow on straw. You can grow on like cotton hulls. Also, you can grow on wheat bran, which we use wheat bran for just some certain species.
Here's my question. If you use wheat bran, does that make it sensitive to gluten-free people though?
Well, technically not. A lot of gluten-free people can eat the mushrooms grown off of wheat bran. It's just if you have contact with that bran substrate when you rip the mushroom off of the block. Yeah, because when we go to put these in the grow room, what we do is we end up cutting this bag and we fold it over. And then we just cut a slice in the bag. And the grow room's really humid. It's like 80-90% humidity. So there's always like a mister going in there. And the mushrooms, they naturally want oxygen. So mushrooms use oxygen like we do, which is totally the opposite of plants. So that any little spot where there's a slice in the bag, the mushrooms grow immediately right out of that slice. So when you rip it off, there's a big chunk usually of this stuff on it. So, you know, if that gets onto the mushrooms, there's a potential. But I've talked to a lot of people at farmers markets who are gluten-free who have no problem. So, but yeah, I started out growing on straw, and that was horrible. You like dunk it in a big tank full of water, and you have to mash it around and put hydrated lime in it and then bag it into bags all manually. And I soon realized that was not like something that could be done as a business. So we ended up starting to experiment with the bags, and that's really how a lot of the big farms in the US do it. Like the mushroom industry here in the United States is really, it's like really in its infancy stages. There's not many big farms. If you go to Giant or Wise, there's a good chance you're not going to see many of these mushrooms that we grow even in the grocery stores yet. Whereas in Asia, in China, they have like a really sophisticated mushroom growing type of culture there, and people just tend to eat a lot more mushrooms. So there's many other ways that they grow them. They grow them on little bottles, almost like my water bottle there, where they'll just pack the mycelium into the bottle, and then it just grows right out the top. The mushrooms will just grow off the top of the bottle, so they just cut it off like that. And there's little other low-tech ways. You know, you can really just take, let's say this spawn, if this were an oyster variety or some kind of variety that's a little bit more aggressive, you could just break this up and put it in your mulch bed in your garden, and it will grow mushrooms. I mean, that's like the easiest way to get into this and the easiest way to get a little bit more out of your garden. And also there's a really amazing relationship that happens between the mycelium and plants. In nature, these things are automatically sending nutrients back and forth to each other, which is really crazy. And it's something that we're just starting to understand. There's not a lot of research done on it yet, but we know it's happening. And we're just now, that's what's so funny. Mushrooms are so much older than plants, yet we understand them way less than plants altogether. And that's what's fascinating to me. They're kind of like a mystery. Yeah.
We have some posters on that.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, it's good.
Because they're doing conservation district soil where it begins.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them chose to do that correlation of mushrooms decomposing and then the connections.
That's cool, because when I took biology and stuff like this, they didn't talk about it at all. So the fact that it's being talked about is interesting. What do you got?
How long does it take for you to steam them?
That's a good one.
What else do you do with them?
Yeah, so like I was saying about the mycelial phase being like 97% of the life cycle. So to actually go from like where this block is now to actually having mushrooms is only 10 to 14 days. So that's why our business is focused on actually selling these. We don't actually grow a ton of fresh mushrooms. We're selling these blocks to other farms across the country because we're essentially doing all of the work, the prior sterile and lab work for them. So they only have a couple of days and they have mushrooms ready to sell at their local markets. But all of these stages here take, depending on the species, anywhere between 10 to 14 days at each phase. So, you know, you're looking at right here is 6 weeks, 8 weeks of growth. So, you know, you're looking at actually 9 weeks almost from a plate to having harvested mushrooms. So that's why we kind of found like a niche within the industry where we're able to ship these blocks all over the country and other farms are able to grow them for their local markets. Because a lot of our customers, they're in cities, they're in places that they have a lot more opportunity to sell fresh mushrooms. Whereas here, it's like, when we started, we did farmers markets for like 5-6 years. Like we did multiple farmers markets every weekend. And, you know, I had a bigger vision for the business, and we had some lucky breaks where people contacted us to buy these blocks because they needed someone to buy them from. And that became kind of the whole gig. So just cutting out that time for others is really valuable to some people.
Did you have anyone local step in your farm market niche?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did they buy from you, or did they just kind of start on their own?
The great thing is as we've grown, like a lot of people have stepped into the markets and they do still buy from us. Actually, one of my old employees started growing and started doing most of the markets that we were doing. But yeah, for the most part, people are buying blocks from us for markets that we used to do. especially up near Williamsport and, places that are a little bit further for us, like Harrisburg and that stuff. We did do markets all over the place, but just the feasibility of having 7 people going to markets on a Saturday was a lot. It was a lot.
The prepping, the setting up, the tearing down, the
Yep.
rain.
Yep, and they're early. People don't really want to get up super early on a Saturday to go to the farmer's market. So, I loved it, but. So what are you guys planting today?
Just a bunch of stuff. It's some weird name.
Marigolds, nice. Cabbage, nice.
I don't remember. Grasilia. Yeah. So some herbs, some flowers, just getting the greenhouse filled for our spring sale. So, yeah, just our annuals, and there was some perennials, some columbines, aquagenia.
Nice. I want to get some marigolds going this year for my garden. They're supposed to be really pest resistant,
She was just doing marigolds, so
that's
they're a good
awesome.
companion plant.
Yeah, so once these blocks have grown mushrooms, we actually take them and we compost all of them. And within 6 to 8 months, they are it's just like black soil again because of the decomposing nature of the mushrooms. The block breaks down so fast, and it's like the best soil to use for your garden. So if you're struggling with growing peppers and they're growing small, adding some mushroom soil is like a guaranteed way for them to grow much bigger. Our garden last year was just ridiculous, and it was full of mushroom soil.
Well, and you can self-compost. And a lot of our small greenhouses have stopped doing that. Like the ones that I know locally have been sold and traded.
Yep, we just put out an advertisement for people to get some soil from us because we have so much of it, and we produce so much of it.
Good, we might need some.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll even deliver it.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it's fun.
I might have missed this part, but when you cut the bags for the fruiting bodies to grow, do they still need to be in a sterilized environment?
No. So pretty much when the blocks are at this point, they're not going to just start growing mold. Like the mushrooms themselves have such a, I guess they're antimicrobial, they're antibacterial in of themselves. They've just developed those defenses. So once they're to the point where the bag's fully colonized, all that we'll do is we'll take it, we'll cut it, fold it over, and we'll use a sterile knife because you are going into the mycelium a little bit. You don't want to create any more battles than you have to, essentially. But yeah, no, the grow room is like the dirtiest place. It's just an impossible place to keep clean because these mushrooms sporulate. They grow so fast.
That means you're late.
You get red up here.
Yeah, oh yeah. I don't mess it up.
But yeah, it's an interesting process. There's just so much to learn when it comes to mushrooms because, like I said, it's just not taught actively in schools yet, and it's just a burdening thing that's really just starting to become popular. So there's a real opportunity for a lot of the farmers that we sell these blocks to because they're the first people growing mushrooms in their city a lot of times. And there's a lot of fancy restaurants and farmers markets where people do thousands of dollars a weekend just selling mushrooms. It's pretty impressive. Now that's not how it is here, but there's potential depending on your location for sure. Yeah, it's cool.
I think they all realize too that our area, I tell them all the time, our area doesn't fit the mold.
It's
harder here. It's more rural, so it makes everything harder. Yes, you go to Williamsport, Wilkes-Barre, you'd make twice as much as here.
Absolutely.
Just same with greenhouse. You go to Lancaster, Lidditz, you're gonna make 3 times as much as
Yeah, we just live in a place where the cost of living is just lower. So that's why we chose to start shipping the blocks because, you would be amazed at the amount of money that people have in the city. It's nothing like here. So we grow up with this facade of, everybody doesn't have a lot of money, but people in the city, they will pay top dollar for these blocks. Now we sell the blocks wholesale for $10, but we sell them retail just like one at a time for like $55, and people gladly pay it because a lot of the ones in the store, you may have seen like Back to Roots. They have little mushroom grow kits that you find in Lowe's, and they're like this big, and they grow like one mushroom out of them, and they're $30. You know, so it's kind of unfortunate because people end up finding that first, and then they don't have real success, and then they think mushroom growing is hard. When in reality, it's super easy from this point of just cutting the bag open. You just have to mist it. They just need water a little bit more frequently than plants. So, you know, you'll cut the bag open and mist it 3 times a day if it were to sit on your countertop. But in the grow room, everything's automated. So we don't have to worry about all of those parameters each day and going in and spraying it. We pretty much cut the blocks, put them on a rack, push them in the grow room, and the machinery or the intelligence of the grow room does the rest. And if you guys want to check out any more of that kind of stuff, it's all on our YouTube. It's 10 Mile Mushrooms.
They're laughing because I already showed some pictures and videos.
Oh, good. Okay, good. No, definitely. Yeah, I try to document a lot of the process just because it's something that's not seen very often. So.
And do you think, because I'm very old school, but I get it, do you think that social media helps your business? Do people that you've never heard of reach out to you because they've seen your videos?
Well, absolutely. I am a huge advocate for social media, right? Especially right now. I just started posting daily on social media, and we've gained over 13,000 followers on Facebook in 3 months. And it's absolutely the way to go. So I don't know. I'm kicking myself that I didn't start sooner, but you know, we now have like 60,000 followers on YouTube, and we have a good following, and people call and reach out all the time about seeing our stuff online. So if you're going to do it, don't be afraid. But yeah, totally. We should do a hands-on workshop sometime. That would be fun.
That was my thought, and my thought too was we are trying, now that the greenhouse is here, trying to make that connection with culinary. Where did we all go at the beginning of the year?
Ooh, we went to culinary. We made jam.
Ooh, that's fun.
But the goal is for Chef and I to make that connection, so we want to kind of do one where we grow the mushrooms, they go to culinary, they use them to learn how to cook with them, because let's face it, most of the students that want to be a chef, once again, there's not a whole lot of huge chef opportunities around here.
Absolutely.
They're going to be going other places, so we want them used to the foods that they're going to see and not just
Yeah, that's a big thing.
They're going to see more than the average food around.
No, definitely.
Which is what we're
And
used
mushrooms are, I mean, if they're going to work at a high-end restaurant, almost every high-end restaurant now is using some sort of mushroom dish, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, and there's lots of ways you could go about it. I mean, we could do a hands-on and actually create the substrate itself, or you guys could just fruit some blocks and, you know,
Or do it all.
yeah, doing it all would be fun. Yeah, it would be fun. We could make up some bags and...
Am I correct in most of them are medicinal as well?
Absolutely. All of them are medicinal for sure. I mean, lion's mane would be a great one for that just because it's the most probably well known as far as having medicinal properties. And it's good. If you guys haven't had it, it has, it looks like a brain. Have they seen any pictures of it?
No.
Okay. So it looks like a big white puff ball, and pretty much it has these little spines that grow off of it. But when you peel it apart, it has like meat type texture to it. So it makes a good like shrimp or crab substitute. Yeah. Yeah. So when you take this and you rip it apart, it's like striated in there. Like it has a grain to it. And you just peel it apart and it makes like killer buffalo chicken dip and like chicken substitutes.
That's it. You got them all. That's the food they bring to every party.
It is better than the regular. You use the Frank's recipe that's on the bottle, and it's better than using chicken, I swear. I've taken it to multiple parties where there were the regular one and the mushroom one, and the mushroom one has always been way better.
Now, have they figured out morels yet? Because I know that was a hard one to cultivate.
They are cultivating them in China successfully. And you may see some ads from a company called North Spore where they're now saying that they have the cultures because it's very strain specific for morels, which morels are highly sought after wild variety that grows here locally. And everybody's all about picking morels. And just a couple of weeks here, they pop up, and it's just for 2 weeks out of the year that they grow.
And they usually say when the red buds, which you guys all now remember the red bud tree.
Red
that
bud's
has
a
the
great
purple
tree.
Flowers, not red. Usually they say what around here when the red buds are blossoming, your morels are popping up.
Yep,
Because
exactly.
the temperatures
Yep, and
are
when the skunk plant is
Yep.
popping up, it's
So, and then the other one, can you do it on those versus log? Is it the turkey tail and reishi?
turkey tail and reishi. Reishi we do grow on these blocks. Dang, I should have brought one because they're so cool on the blocks. They just grow red, yellow antlers that go all the way to the top, and it's just like it's a really incredible mushroom because the mycelium of all the oysters is kind of like, it's not very strong. But with reishi, there was actually a girl, I think from a college in Tennessee, she built a whole canoe out of it, out of the mycelium. So she created a mold where they grew the mycelium into a shape. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they're wild.
It's like fingers.
Yeah, and so the bottom of this is like nearly indestructible. It's such a strong material that once they dry out, I mean, you could kill a man with it. It's pretty crazy.
That's what you'd see in nature usually on the tree is that.
Yes,
shell mushroom.
and the reason that they're growing differently here is because they don't have the oxygen, so they grow in an antler type of formation. Whereas when they're in the wild, they have plenty of oxygen, so they fan out nicely. So having enough airflow in the grow room is so important because if you don't have enough fresh air coming in, the mushrooms, they just like kind of grow in a big leggy, they're reaching for air essentially, and they grow totally weird looking, and they're just not as presentable as when you have big, beautiful caps on them. These are cordyceps. These are the ones I was talking about. Here you can see they grow right out of these beetles and bugs.
Oh yeah, that one's a cocoon of the.
Yeah, that one's probably, yep, that's a cocoon.
Yep.
It's,
Those are the cocoons we find in the soil when we're digging.
And you
So
can-
some type of moth.
you can see the mycelium growing in between the scales of it. So it actually colonizes the whole thing. At one point, the insect is actually totally dead. And the mushroom somehow takes over the neurological system of the bug and can control it. It's like true zombie fungus. It's very crazy.
Yeah, but wait, didn't you say you didn't like doing the straw one?
I didn't like doing the straw, but it's like a good way to, not as a business. If you want to do it at home and just DIY it, it's a good cheap way to do it because straw is so cheap and really all you need is water and hydrated lime is what we use, and that's what pasteurizes it. It's just a lime, like you use, like you would use in the soil. This is just, and it is probably the same thing that you have. It's a pH adjuster. So when you put a bunch of hydrated lime in the water and dunk the straw in it, it actually boosts the pH so high that it kills a lot of the microbes. So that's just called like the lime technique. And that's another mushroom phrase where people create these ways to do things and then they call them techs. It's kind of goofy.
Well, thank you for.
Yeah, of course, guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course.
That was like